This grandfather did what? Oh my gosh, guys, he made a point system for his will, and his kids are pissed. I almost can't believe this is a real story, but damn, I would totally do this. Welcome to LaughNapkin. This story plus one more for episode 2 of r/ProRevenge. A unique way to share your money among your heirs in a way that is actually fair. This story is the story of a good friend of mine's grandfather and how he dealt with his inheritance in a very unique way. He had 2 sons, and each of them also had 2 sons. In the last half year of his life, my friend and I visited him every morning and every evening. You see, he didn't want to go into a retirement home, and apart from getting ready in the morning and in the evening, he didn't really need help. Now, I need to explain something really quick. Back in the day, we still had mandatory service in the Army for 12 months, but there was several ways around it. I will only explain the most common way since it's connected to our story. You see, instead of going to the Army, you could say that you refuse to go to the Army for ethical reasons, which was really just a formality. You simply wrote a 1-page essay why you think being in the Army would violate your personal ethics, and they pretty much had to accept it. But that meant you had to go into civil service. Civil service could be any kind of job that in a wider sense is a service to society. So these jobs range from kindergarten to retirement homes and anything in between, like hospitals, homes for physically or mentally disabled, Meals on Wheels, pretty much anything you could imagine. You would be paid for that time the same amount of money you would get in the Army and had the right to certain perks like free room, health insurance, work clothes, etc. The same stuff any soldier gets. Plus, since soldiers get free food, you either got free food or a food allowance. I did my time in a retirement home, and it was an awesome experience. I think a job like that really widens your horizon as a young, arrogant shit, and really matures you and shows you what is actually important in life. Back to the story. I was just done with my time in the retirement home, and for 1 year simply wanted to job bounce around and make some money. Then one of my best friends comes to me and tells me he needs my help. His grandpa can no longer do everything by himself, but really only needs help in the morning to get ready and in the evening. Since I have learned how to do this from real professionals, he asked me to show him so his grandpa doesn't have to go into a retirement home yet. He later admitted that his grandpa said he would rather be dead than get put into a nursing home, and he seemed really serious about it. He didn't tell me at the time since he didn't want to pressure me into help like that, which I really appreciated. He was one of my best friends, and I really liked his grandpa. When I was younger, I didn't have a grandpa, but we visited him all the time and I became his unofficial 5th grandson. So of course, I said yes. The original plan was to show him for 2 to 3 weeks, and then observe him for another 2 to 3 weeks, and then he could do it on his own. But we ended up doing it together for over half a year. Then Grandpa had a stroke and died within 2 days in the hospital. 2 days later, my friend asked me to come with him to the lawyer where the last will would be read. His grandfather had specifically asked that his will would be read the day before he gets buried, which is quite unusual, but not illegal as such. I asked why he wanted me there, and he told me the lawyer had officially invited me since Grandpa had left me something as a thank you for my service. I was a bit embarrassed, but also happy that Grandpa had thought so highly of my service he even put me in his last will. Now my friend's dad is an entitled jerk, and the same goes for his uncle. We arrived there and went into the room. Cast: friend, me, entitled dad, and entitled uncle. Entitled dad to me: "Why the hell are you here? I know that dad called you in jest his 5th grandkid, but this is for real family." Entitled uncle: "I bet the little gold digger hoped he would get some money in the will." Me: "I was asked here by the lawyer. Take it up with him. I have no idea why I'm here." Entitled dad: "If you pulled something to get his money, I will sue you so hard, even your kids will still need lawyers." Friend: "Show some respect and stop shouting. I know you two didn't really give a crap about your dad, but show at least a minimum of respect. Entitled uncle, how dare you talk to your elders like that, you little crap. Friend, you two get exactly as much respect from me as you showed your own father. None. He really shouted the last word, and it finally shut the two up. We sat down and still had to wait for the other two grandkids to arrive. The two sat right behind us, and what they talked about really made my blood boil. Apparently, they had both gotten new cars, new jewelry for the wife, and had planned a huge holiday. All that was paid for by credit, and they had planned to pay for it with the inheritance. None of them said even a word about missing him, being sad that he died. Nothing. Only me, and money. They seemed to be in a competition. Who could spend the inheritance faster the way they planned away the money? Then finally, we're all there and the lawyer read out a short letter. What I will tell you here is a much shortened version, but the real thing was several pages. But it boils down to this. In recent years, I more and more realized that some people in my family cared a lot more about me than others. I'm especially disappointed in my two sons, but I wanted to be really fair and not biased, so I came up with a point system. Letter phone call, 1 point plus 1 extra if it's very long. Visit, 2 points per hour plus 1 point per hour of travel to me and back. Helping me out with something, 3 points per hour. This is the final result over the past 3 years of my life. Entitled dad, 8 points. Entitled uncle, 10 points. Entitled uncle kid 1, 150 points. Entitled uncle kid 2, 133 points. Friend's brother, 288 points. Friend, 7,341 points. Me, 5,883 points. My lawyer has already liquidated most of my assets except the house. Once it's sold, the money will be divided by the points so we know what each point is worth. And then every person gets a share of the money according to his points. For about a minute, you could hear a pin drop. Then both entitled dad and entitled uncle started shouting at the same time that they knew we would have pulled something and this would never stand. Of course, they tried to sue. Entitled uncle, his kids, and entitled dad together. But they lost. And there was a secret clause. Not really secret, it was simply not read to us that day. So nobody realized it was in there, since we all assumed everything was read to us on that day by the lawyer. In the will, that if someone sues against the will, he loses his share of the inheritance. It took nearly 3 years until all the lawsuits were over, and I was blown away when we finally got the money. I'm not naming a sum, but it was way more than I felt comfortable accepting, so I wanted to give at least some of it to the other 3 grandkids. But my friend finally convinced me to accept it by saying to me, "You cared for him more when he needed you without expecting anything for it, which makes you 10 times more his family than any of those jerks. They got what they deserved." Lie about giving me a raise? Say goodbye to your income. Updated, now with 100% more revenge. Background. I work as a subcontractor for an actually licensed contractor for a realty company. Basically, the realty company buys houses, and the contractor tells us to go to the new address, and my coworkers and I flip the house and get it ready to be rented out. When I first started the job, it was a difficult transition, considering I was a plumber previously, but I eventually became a valuable asset to contractor's company, thus the realty company as well. The contractor was infamous for being a bit of an ass when it came to actual business and money. He was constantly yelling and screaming at the plumber, the painter, etc. about prices and how it took them too long and he wasn't paying that much, which I would understand if the yelling was actually warranted. When it became tax season, he gave everyone else a 1099 and said that he lost mine and got pissed off every time I asked about it. If someone knows what I can do about that, please let me know. This guy easily makes $2 million a year, so he says, so I don't really think $100 off the price matters that much. Not enough to get into a screaming match and ruin relationships with the other subcontractors. I've been working for him for about a year now at $16 an hour. Not too bad for my area, but I make him a lot more a day than the $160 I make every 10-hour workday. One day I asked him for a raise, which he laughs and shuts me down immediately. After that, I decided to work harder, get houses done faster, and show him that I deserve a raise. A few months later, I decided to ask for a raise again, but not as directly. Me. How could I be more useful to the company so I can increase my productivity and both of us can make more money? He said, "Get a van and a trailer and we can talk about more money," in his normal gruff tone that says, "Shut up and get back to work." After that day, I worked side jobs here and there, worked a lot harder than I usually would, and even all throughout the weekend. Saving up as much money as possible. I sometimes wouldn't eat some days just to save that little bit of money. He loved how much I was getting done, and I could practically see the dollar signs in his eyes when I told him all that I got done every day. Finally, the day came where I saved up just enough money to buy my dad's old Ford van. Then, not long after, I bought a little piece of crap 5x10 trailer that I had to fix up. The following Monday, I pull up with the bright white gas guzzler and the fixed up trailer following behind. I walk up to him smiling ear to ear about my accomplishment, hoping he would be proud or at least happy about all that I have done. I tell him to look at my new toys, and all he says is cool and got in his truck and left. Okay, maybe he's just busy, I thought as I processed his extremely underwhelming response. At the end of the day, I finally have a moment with him to discuss my raise. "So, I have the van and the trailer. I have saved up and done everything you said that I needed to do to make more money and be more of an asset to this company." He narrows his eyes at me. "What are you talking about?" "You said that if I get a van and a trailer, you would pay me more," I said, confused. "I never said any of that stuff. You have to actually work if you want anything else from me." I was devastated. I had been working my butt off while he sat on his butt and watched. I followed every instruction, completed at the very least 2 houses a week, which he makes about $5,000 per house, or so he says, and he acts like I do nothing for the company. I swallowed my pride and let out a quick, "Yes, sir," and left his office. I was finally tired of dealing with contractor. Tired and defeated. I decided it was time to start looking for other jobs that actually had the possibility to move up. Then the company electrician gave me an idea. I'm going to call him Adam for privacy reasons. Adam is a good guy all around. If you needed advice or just someone to talk to, he was always there for you. I told him about everything that has happened with the contractor and told him I was looking for other jobs. He simply said, "You're not supposed to be here to try and make it to the top. You're here to learn. Learn everything you can, and one day, you'll be the contractor. A better one than contractor for sure. Why not look into getting your general contracting license? It's not hard, and you just have to work for it." That's what I did to an extent. I worked for a contractor for years dealing with his crap, until one day I decided to get my electrician's license. Now, he doesn't decide what I'm paid. I do. That is, if he wants me to work for him, and if not, then I have other customers to make my living. I took his words to heart and came up with a plan. Revenge. I did some research on becoming a general contractor in my state. Requirements differ in other states. Basically, I would need books to learn the materials, references, a bank reference, and to pass the test. The books were pretty expensive. With bills, taking care of my family, and a monthly van payment, it seemed impossible for now. Until I found a group following in my area that needed a handyman to do a variety of things. Perfect. Extra money. Soon, my name started blowing up in my small town. I did everything from repairing fences to installing toilets. I took everything I learned from plumbing and from working for a contractor and used it to build a reputation. References, check. This is when I decided I was going to open my own business. Again, I did my research and learned all I had to do to open said business. I'll spare you the details, but it was basically business license, how to get an LLC, liability insurance, think of a name not already taken, blah blah blah. It took a while, but I sent in all that I had and prayed to whatever God there is for me to be invited to take the test. I waited and waited until about 3 weeks, and finally I got a letter inviting me to take the next test. It was a 3-hour drive and on a Tuesday. Great, another speed bump. I have to miss work and pay $300. The day of the test came and I panicked. It was open book, but I eventually ran out of time and didn't get to finish. I was so disappointed in myself that I basically gave up. I just decided to keep working my job and little side business. A week later, I was holding my son. He is a beautiful, blonde-haired, blue-eyed reflection of myself. After I managed to get him to sleep, I stared at him and wondered if I'd be able to give him a better life than I had. I remember growing up in garbage trailers, being hungry and made fun of at school because I wore clothes from Walmart. Not the best way to grow up, but I had a roof over my head. I always wanted video games that my friends had, but never got it. I wanted to go to trampoline parks and water parks. I've only been once in my entire life. That's about when my resolve renews itself within me. I had to do this, not only for me, but for him. I saved up all over again and came up with the $300 and requested for a retake of the test. I took practice tests online, so I was ready. The day came and I barely managed to pass, but I still passed the test and received my license. Now, time for the fun part. With all the time passing, I become pretty close friends with the owner of the realty company. Going to barbecues, stopping to tell him some corny joke I saw on Facebook, he loved puns, and doing extra tasks not under contractor. One day, I came into his office and saw some invoices from contractor on his desk. I just said, wow, that's how much you're gonna pay him? Dude, he should at least take it easy on you, being that you guys have known each other for so long. He just nodded and said, you think so? And he just looked at the papers more. Since then, I would say little comments about how much contractor was being paid and how many houses we could buy with that money. Just planting seeds in his mind that I slowly water until they turn into a beautiful garden of resentment. Finally, owner calls me and wants me to come to his house for a beer and to talk business. We've done this a few times before. It's usually about his wife or his last time he played golf. I pull into his driveway and he told me to meet him out back. After the usual how are yous, he tells me that him and a contractor have been in a bit of an argument and they're limiting him from now on. Then he turned to me and said, there's a meeting Friday, I want you there at 9 o'clock. I hesitate. I wasn't sure what it could have been. You know how your parents would ask, do you have something to tell me? And you as a kid would go into panic and think about all the bad stuff you did in school? No, just me? Okay, sure, I'll be there, I managed to say calmly through a scrambled mind. A few stories about beers and fishing trips. I headed home. That was today, 4/30/19. I was so excited to write this. I started as soon as I got home. This meeting is on Friday. If you want me to, I'll update after the meeting. Sorry it was so long. I guess I was excited, scared of what is about to happen. The way I see it, it can go one of two ways. 1. I could be asked to take contractor's place and have contractor work for me. 2. They thought about what I had said about prices and they came to an agreement that they need to confront me and or fire me. I'll let you know when I do. Thanks for reading. Update. It happened. Oh my freaking God. So I went to the meeting this morning, and as I came in, everyone shook my hand. Some I've even seen before and said my, hi, how are yous to? Others I've never met in my life. This was an investor meeting. Some of these people are worth figures in the 9 digits. I was internally freaking out after finding out. But if you've read, you'd know I know how to keep my cool. After our greetings, we sat down and waited. It wasn't clear who we were waiting on, until after an hour later, contractor walks in with his usual stained t-shirt and cargo shorts, while I'm in a nice dress shirt and tie. Figured I would look nice for this. Everyone made a face and greeted contractor while we got settled again. Contractor didn't seem to notice me until we all sat back down. I saw him do a double take and give me a look that said, what the hell are you doing here? I had requested off today, so I could only imagine what he was thinking. After introducing the new investors to the old investors, owner guy started saying how we're going to have an amazing 2019 and an amazing future for the company. I suppose he was just trying to hype up the new guys so they would invest more. About 2 hours of production values and budget stuff, blah blah, he turns to me and said, "I would just like to take the time to congratulate OP for passing the general contractor's exam and his newly acquired business." I smiled and thanked him. Then he continued, "As we are growing, we have a demand for new and inspiring people within our company. After hearing about OP's success with both our company and his, I would like to personally ask him a question in front of the whole team." My heart pounding in my throat as each word sounded slower than the last. I took a side glance at contractor that is visibly sweating at this point. "OP, how would you like to be the new project manager? You may still have your business and do your own work, but we will pay you exclusively to be our personal contractor and help take care of all new and old properties." Everyone turns to me, and I take a second to respond. Just then, the contractor stands up and says, "What the hell? I'm your freaking contractor. I've been your contractor for over a decade. You can't just replace me for some dummy that doesn't even know what he's doing." Owner smugly looks at contractor and says, "We're not replacing you. You will just answer to him now. All tasks, orders, and billings will go through him now. If you would like to still work for us, granted you mind your mouth and your tone. You will run everything you do by OP." Contractor looks enraged and he turns to me and says, "You're fired. You have no business here anymore. Now leave." Owner chuckles and says, "You don't have that power anymore as long as OP agrees to my question." I turn to him and say, "Are you sure you can afford me?" I laugh and shake his hand. "Yes, this is all I ever wanted. All I have worked for. Now we can get some real work done." I have to admit something. I've been practicing that response since I was asked to come to the meeting. Contractor stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him, and I didn't see him for the rest of the day. After he left, we continued to discuss goals for this year and how they bought 60 new houses for me to work on with the investors' money, and he just looked at me and said, "Can you handle that?" I happily said, "Yes, sir," trying to keep my eyes from watering. All I thought about was my family and how proud they would be of me. In a little under a year, I received a great license, my own business, and pretty much nonstop work. If there is anything you guys reading can take from this, I hope it will be this. Don't settle in life. Be hungry to better yourself, and be the best person you can be. The only person stopping you is yourself. Again, I'm sorry that this is so long. When I wrote the first part, I've had a few drinks, and when I got home, I continued drinking. I could condense it, but I'm not going to due to the fact that it was a pure reaction to it all. The puzzle coming together, if you will. Thanks for reading. Well, that about wraps it up. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button and bell. By the way, I just started a Discord server for anyone looking to be part of the LaughNapkin community. Link in the description below. See you next time.